In this lecture, we are going to see a number of options we have already discussed in some of the previous sections. So I will not be explaining them in detail. Still, I want to show you how it works with the sortable interaction. So first we are going to see the axis option. You can set the value of axis to be x or y, but in this case, if you set the value of option to be x, it will not be useful, right? You will be able to move this only in this direction, but we want to move it in this direction. Let's make it y. So I need to put curly braces, and within this name is axis, and let me specify it as y. So let's see, refresh. Now I'm not able to move it in any other direction, whereas I can move it only in the vertical direction. So it is more meaningful, right? We actually need not move it in any other direction but only in y direction if the items are displayed one below the other. So here it is perfect. Okay. Then we can have containment option. As of now, we can move this even outside the list. Okay. Still, if I try to release it here, it will go back to the previous position, but it is movable even outside. So we can set value for the containment option. So containment, and for the second one, suppose I want to make the containment as this field set. So let me specify the value of containment as hash right, which means it will not be able to move outside the particular field set. So let me try to move it. See, I'm able to move it only up to this and here up to this. So it cannot be moved outside the field set. And here we haven't specified the axis. So once we specify the axis, we can move only in this direction. But here it can move outside this. So if you set the containment to field set of this one, it will move only up to this. So these are the two options, axis and containment. Axis is used to specify the direction of movement, and containment is used to restrict the movability outside the container. Then the next two options we are going to discuss are cursor and cursorette. We have seen these two options in the draggables, where we can specify the style for our cursor and also the position at which we want to display the cursor. So for this, let me specify the cursor to be grab, okay, and the cursor at, I want to set two values, so I have put curly braces, and let the left be 10 and also the top be 10. So here I have set the value of cursor to be grab and the position of cursor to be left 10 and top 10. So let's see that. Refresh. Let me click here. Still it is displayed here, isn't it? It is displayed at the left and top 10 and the cursor style is grab. So even if I click somewhere else, the cursor will appear here. See? And for the other one, let me copy this, and instead of grab, let me make it move and the position of cursor to be bottom 10. Okay, here I have missed the starting curly braces. That's why it was giving an error. So save, refresh. Let me try to click here. See, it is displayed with bottom 10 and the cursor is move. So if I click here at the top, still the cursor will be displayed at bottom 10. So this way we can style the cursor using cursor and cursorette. Cursor is used to set the type of the cursor and cursorette is used to set the position of the cursor. Then we can use the grid option. If we specify the values in an array, it will move specified distance in the x and y directions. So let's see that grid, and let me specify the values in an array like 10, 20. Okay, which means when we try to drag it, it will move 10 pixels in the x direction and 20 pixels in the y direction. So let me refresh and try to drag this. See, we are seeing something like a jumping effect, isn't it? So it is jumping 20 px each time in the vertical direction, and if I move like this, it will move 10 px in the horizontal direction. So this way we can add some jumping effect using the grid option. Then we can actually add a helper if you want. That is, you will be able to drag a helper instead of the original one. But in case of a sortable, when we try to drag it, actually the original one is getting hidden and the helper itself is moving. So if you want to see the effect, we need to add a custom function which we have seen in the draggable section. So let me try to add a custom helper for this. So let me remove this and let me specify helper to be a function, because by default we are seeing the helper only. So instead of that, I want to see a custom helper. So here in this case we can add event and UI so that you can get the values of the dragging item or the sorting item. And here let me specify return. I'm going to add a div element. So dollar in double quotes div. Let me add some style, and here it should be single quotes because we have already specified a double quotes here. So if I added double quotes, it will end this string. So I want to add background to be say blue, then border let it be 4px dotted white, then let me add the color of the text to be white, and let me align the text to be centered. Then what I want is, I want to close this and then display the text of the dragging element. So we can get it from $UI.text. Here I need to close the double quotes as well. Okay. And after this, I want to close the div as well. Hope you understand this. It is a bit difficult or confusing. Here I am adding a custom helper, and in this section I am styling it. That is, up to this I am adding the style, and I am closing the styles, opening single quotes here, and I am closing this section, and I want to add some text. That should be the text of the sorting element. So I can get it from this UI, that is $UI.text will return the text of the currently sorting element. And after that, I want to close the div. So let's see that. Refresh. Let me try to drag this. Okay, we are not seeing the text actually. Why is it so? Okay, we haven't closed this div here. After setting the style, we need to close that div. Then only we will be able to see the text. So let's refresh. Let me try. See, it is displayed like mango. And let me also try to increase the font size to be 20px. Okay, it is too small now. So 20px. Refresh. See, we are now seeing a custom helper. So once we drag it, it will display as before, but while moving, we will be able to see a custom helper. So this way you can add a custom helper using the helper option. And here we are not setting the value of helper to be clone, because by default in case of sortable, when we try to sort an item, the original element is getting hidden and the clone is moving. So that is why we have added a custom helper. Then one more option we can use with helper is opacity. We can add an opacity if you want to make it transparent. So let me specify the opacity to be 0.5 and see the difference. Refresh. See, an opaque or transparent helper is moving now. So here we have seen two options. They are helper and opacity. Next, let us see the handle option. We have also seen this option in the previous sections. If you specify some value for the handle, the sortability will work only if we click on that particular handle and try to drag. So I have downloaded an image in my folder. This is the folder, and here I have downloaded an image named circle.png. Okay, so now let me add the image after this text using img tag. So img src equals, let me add the circle.png, and let me copy this into all the list items. And now let's see. Refresh. See, now they are appearing like this. So let me style it a bit. img, let me specify float to be right. Okay, and see it. Refresh. Okay, now they are appearing like this. I think it is too much close to the border, right? So let me add a padding of say 3px. Okay, save. Okay, fine. Now I want to restrict the sorting only if a person clicks on this. You can actually add some beautiful images. I want to make sure that only if the person clicks here and try to sort it, the sorting should happen. So how we can handle that? Let me remove this and specify handle to be img, which means only if the person clicks on the image, the sorting will happen or the dragging will start. Let me try here. No, it is not moving. And let me click here and drag. See, it is dragging. So we can specify where we want to restrict the dragging using the handle option. We have seen the handle option even before. So here we have specified handle to be image. So only if the person clicks on an image and drag, it will be draggable. Otherwise, it will not move. So this is the handle option. And we have seen revert option in the previous interactions. Actually, in previous cases, we have been using the revert option to move back to its original position. But in the case of sortable interaction, when we specify revert, what will happen is that it will move to the new position as a smooth animation. Suppose here I specify revert, say some time, 2000, means 2 seconds. Now what will happen? Let's see that, refresh. Let me try to move this. And if I release, see, it is moving slowly like an animation. So it is not moving to its original position. Then it will defeat the purpose of sortable interaction itself, right? So it is moving to its new position as an animation if we set the value of revert. So you can even specify slow and fast here. If I specify slow, refresh, let me try to move it. See, it is moving slowly. So you can even set some numbers, that is time in milliseconds, or even slow, fast like that. In that case, the item will move to its new position as a smooth animation. And finally, let's see the tolerance option. The tolerance values can be intersect and pointer. And we have seen this as well in the previous sections. The value of tolerance is intersect by default. And suppose I set the value of tolerance to be pointer. Once the pointer is touching the new position, it will move. So here, see, once the pointer is entered, we are seeing the white space. But by default, its values intersect. So only if both the items intersect, we will see the difference. So let's see that, refresh. See, only once it intersects, we are seeing the white space. But when we set the value of tolerance to be pointer, we see the white space once the pointer intersects with the other item. So in this section, we have seen a number of options. I haven't discussed them in detail because we have seen all these options in previous sections. So the options we have discussed in this lecture are axis, containment, cursor, cursor et, grid, helper, opacity, handle, revert, and tolerance. So axis is used to set the value of direction of movement. We have set here the value of axis to be y, so that it can move only in the y direction or in the vertical direction. The containment is used to restrict the containment. Once we set the value of containment, the item will not move outside that. The cursor option is used to set the style of the cursor. We can set values offered by CSS cursor styles. We have set values like grab and move here, and cursor et is used to set the position of the cursor. We can use left, top, right and bottom to set the value of cursor et. Then grid is used to add some jumping effect. When we specify the value of grid in an array, the item will move the specified distance in x and y direction. Helper is used to add a helper when we move. We have added a custom helper and styled it because by default in case of sortable interaction, the clone is moving. So that is why we have added a custom helper. And opacity is used to make the item transparent. Handle is used to make sure that the item is moved only if the user clicks at some particular point. So here we have added an image, and only if the user clicks and try to drag it, the item will move. Revert is used to add a smooth animation when it moves to the new position. And for tolerance, we can have two values, intersect and pointer. It is used to decide when it should be considered as moving over the other item. So these are the 12 options we have discussed in this lecture.